Just one thing real quick. I just want to. I won't speak very often about particular individuals when they go in the portal. However, there's times where I feel like I do need to, and I'm going to talk about Jack McAllister. This is an amazing young man who committed to us, and had the team mentality to stay with Washington through their bowl game, and they came to us. And then as we made a coaching change, and I know everybody loves coaching changes, like the fix is always to bring someone new in, there's always collateral damage. And Coach Eckler's done a wonderful job, and he strongly believes in utilizing the college rules, which are different than the NFL rules, in which guys can get down the field. And so we will be more of a rugby punt team. And so throughout the course of the spring, we've both rugbyed and done traditional punt. Traditional punt is what Jack's great at. He's an excellent player that we hope has a chance at the next level. And so when we met with him on Thursday, when first Coach Eckler and then myself met with him on Thursday, we let him know that, hey, we would be moving in that direction, away from what he's good at. And while we offered him he certainly can stay, it's probably in his best interest to go and find something that's schematically what he does. And so, excuse me, I'd find myself if I did that in a team meeting. He asked if he could continue to stay and be at practice because he wants to finish what he started, which is just the caliber of person we're talking about. He was out there today. But I know he posted something on social media, and I know immediately when that happens, normally there's, hey, why would you ever want to leave here? And so I just want to be very clear that this is a young man who I feel terrible about the circumstances. When I met with him, he was so professional, so, obviously deeply disappointed. As he said, Coach, I'd love to stay here. I love the culture. I love everything that I'm experiencing, but I feel like I probably need to go look for something. I told him I don't know if I would have handled it as well as he handled it. And so I don't feel good about how it happened. I don't feel good about the situation. I don't feel good about it, but it is what's in the best interest of us moving forward, schematically and special teams wise. And he obviously, if he doesn't find something, I told him we'd love to have him back. We'd love to honor all the commitments we made to him. But this is a separate situation. So, we want to do right by guys. As I tell them, I'll tell you the truth all the time. I don't want to. I don't mind disappointing you, but I hate to have you say you lied to me. It's better that he knows now than in the fall. And so once that decision was made by Coach Eckler and stamped by me, we're going to move in that direction. So I just wanted to make that very clear, that he's not a kid that deserves anything other than, I hope Bryant, Vivian, Leona grow up to have the type of character in the face of adversity that he had. So, and I want to make sure I certainly address the fact that I hate the way it happened for us timing-wise and the way that, we transitioned. So in football, you're going to change your scheme, but this is completely away from what he would be able to do. So we'll try to help him as best we can. So that was long. I apologize. Secondly, obviously Lee Corso, I know he's announced he's retiring. I love college football. I've grown up around him, just watching him, and I want to thank him for his contributions to the game. He's meant a lot to everybody, and I know he's going to do one game. I expect we'll have them here this year at some point, and we'll miss him when he gets here. And we had 1890 donors out there at practice today. I want to continue to say thank you to them. Well, I know we're hoping that things go to revenue share. NIL's not going away. And, every year we're on more and more of an even playing field in all of our sports because of the people who give to 1890 and the Pede family. So thank you to them. And then finally, I just want to make sure, I send my hearts and prayers out to Coach Eckler and his wife as they deal with the impending death of his wife, his mother-in-law. So he went back yesterday. I'm sure he wouldn't want that to be too public, but this is the type of man that he is, that he went back to be with his wife as they are in those hours, and I appreciate him, and his two assistants did a great job today. So that was long. I apologize, but I feel like Jack deserved that. So with that, I'll see what you guys got.
What is the timeline on bringing in a rugby style punter?
We'll bring someone in this summer. Yeah. So obviously, we go to school till May 10th, and then the guys report back for summer session June 2nd. So, we have some things in the works, and some plan A, plan B type guys. But it's such a unique difference between the pro and college games in terms of what you're allowed to do. In the pros, you can't pass the line of scrimmage until the ball is kicked. So you have to have all these big guys. And in college, you can move down the field, but to do that, run down the field before when the ball's snapped. But to do that, you have to have a moving launch point. So when you look back to last year, especially as we've talked about the wins here, especially if we talk about the different unique situations that are here, to us a rugby style kick takes advantage of the rules, takes advantage of our unique game day atmosphere here in the weather. So schematically, it's a no-brainer, and we'll just have to bring the right guy in.
In terms of recruiting, you've had a lot of guys be able to watch practice. Just what do you think that they've been able to see in those practices, and what kind of feedback have you gotten?
Well, I want people, if they're serious about looking at Nebraska, I want them to come watch us practice. Everybody's nice on junior day. Everybody's nice on, official visits. Come see what people are like at practice. And I hope they'll come away with a couple things. Number one, you see a bunch of coaches who really demand but don't demean. We're going to coach hard. But, my 9-year-old daughter's at practice sometimes. My father is a minister at practice sometimes. My 12-year-old daughter's practice sometimes. My son's out there every day. Like, it's a highly demanding, accountable atmosphere, but it's never demeaning. And so I want them to see that. It can't be too far one way or the other. It can't be just roll the balls out and have fun. You don't get better, and it can't be disrespectful, right? So it's going to be that. Number two, the level of instruction. There's a lot of schools that have really great recruiters, but they don't have great, those guys can't coach. A lot of schools that have good coaches. We're trying to find the middle. So I want them to come see DeKeel coach. Yeah, he's a great recruiter, but he can really teach and instruct and just carry that on the line down all the coaches. So I want them to see that. I want them to see our precision, our attention to detail, right? I want them to see the atmosphere. I want them to see that there's no silos. I want them to see that everyone's speaking the same message, though with different words. There's only one message here. Player development, helping people get better, but people say it in different ways. So as they walk around practice, they see Kristen doing her thing, or Gus, or Dr. Stout from a mental performance standpoint. We're all engaged. And I want them to, one thing I always ask them is, can you tell the difference between the starters and the walk-ons in terms of the way they're being coached? And people can't, and that's important to me. My job's not just to coach the players that I think are going to play. My job's to coach everybody. My job's to make everybody better. So I want them to come and see all that, and I want them to see us, be in a highly, highly detailed, competitive environment. Still see guys having fun, right? Still see guys enjoying the competition. I want them to see Mudita. I want them to see guys celebrating when the guy at their position might make a play. They're not mouthing off. They're not angry when a guy makes a play. They're celebrating and see the joy that we try to build in our locker room. So I think it's very important to come to practice and see that. And then our practices are pretty cool, man. You got former NFL players, former Husker greats. You got a bunch of high school coaches. I mean, some days you have the governor. Some days you have Tom Osborne. There's a lot of people here, and I think it sends a message how important football is at the University of Nebraska.
I know you touched on this Saturday, but how much or in what ways does it complicate some of the conversations you're having with players as spring practice ends because of the uncertainty around what's going to happen with the 105?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. The 105, it sounds like it's going to stay at 105 from what I'm seeing. And, we've already had most of them with everybody. I'm going to, we're going to do the Husker games next Saturday. I called Troy last night. I'm going to go live and do some red and white stuff. We have a bunch of guys that this could be their last time playing in that stadium. We have a bunch of guys that are fighting to make the 105. We have a bunch of guys who, I can't do it when you guys whisper on the side. It distracts me. I have a bunch of guys that if they can't play here, they need some tape to go somewhere else. So, I'm going to wait. I've waited till after the portal closed on that Saturday. Portal closes on Friday, so it won't affect. The guys that are kind of cemented in their spots, they won't play. Some guys they might, ask to play or not. But those guys that are battling, some are twos even, but they want to prove that they're a one. We have a bunch of guys. So we're going to do the Husker games. We're going to bring out a bunch of Husker greats. We're going to have a bunch of competitions like the Pro Bowl. But I'm going to put the ball down a little bit and play some live football. And no Big Ten Network. No. It's just if you love the walk-on program, and you love Husker football, and you love those kids that have, in the face of being told they're not going to make the 105, still did the match rules this winter. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do what Jacob Brandel has done. You know what I'm saying? And I just pick him because he's a walk-on player. I don't know if I could do what Jacob Bauer has done. That I could do the most demanding schedule that I've been around. Guys come from other schools like, Coach, this is demanding. Guys leave here sometimes because, Coach, this is too demanding. We've got guys who do this schedule after being told you're not going to be in the 105. So I'm going to put them out there. And I tell my wife and kids to come watch them play. Could be their last time. Maybe they'll end up being a starter here someday. I bet you there's someone that plays in this thing on next Saturday that'll be a starter someday. So we'll celebrate the former players. We'll celebrate the guys. So, you can see the Dylans and Jacories and all those guys out there, doing a bunch of stuff. But I just decided really yesterday, like, you know what? When they decided it was 105, I owe it to those kids to let them have a chance, one last chance, to go out there and put some stuff on tape. And then if they're not going to make it, we'll send that tape to all the schools that they want us. They'll have some more tape to send out. But I hope our fans, like I said, I hope our fans will come out and watch those kids. So it's, I thought this would be grandfathered in. I really did, Mitch. So I was kind of banking on some of that. And then when I was told, no, it's going to be 105. Now I think you're going to be able to bring more guys to camp, and you're going to have to compete for it. Guys who are out for the year, I think there'll be an exception. So you'll probably be more than 105. But I can't tell you how grateful I am for the kids that are still here, knowing that, hey, my odds aren't that high. They'll be the guys someday that run the country. I made a point today out there with Jacob Bauer. You guys ask me who's flashing, who's not. I hope our coaches have done a pretty good job this spring. I'm not singling a bunch of guys out, but trying to talk about the group, because sometimes we single a guy out, it goes way here, way there. But this kid, I can't even let him go to twos anymore because he plays like a starter. And he wasn't even invited to camp last year. And he pays for school, doesn't have an NIL deal, and he just plays and plays and plays and plays and plays and plays. So, he won't practice next week because he's not just in the 105. He might be in the starting lineup / some of the packages we'll do. But there's some other guys like that I just owe it to them to give them a chance. So, yeah, we're going to play live football next week.
How did you come to that decision? Was it like a aha moment? Was it just through some conversations that you had
Prayer.
with some of those guys? Okay.
Honest to goodness, prayer. Not praying about what should I do with the 105, but just, my dad's a minister. I ain't the best Christian in the world. But I work at it a little bit, and I just had some quiet time the other day, and just sometimes you take some quiet time, whether you meditate, whatever your religion is. I'm not here to advocate. I'm just saying, like, I put my phone down every once in a while, turn the music off. I don't sleep very much. You can tell I slept last night right now, probably because I actually have some energy right now, but don't sleep. But every once in a while, like just taking out all the distractions and just being at peace with whatever your worldview is. And I just started feeling gratitude for some of these kids, right? And this time of year, what's so unfortunate is we talk so much about the kids who might leave, or the kids like who did leave, who said, like, they're just kids, man. They're 19. Like, if you could have put a camera on me at 19, it'd be scary. So I just started thinking about some of them, and it just kind of kept hitting me. Like, my son's a freshman here. My son shows up with the strength staff every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday to do a 6 a.m. workout. He missed this morning. He missed. I was like, CJ, the strength coach, texted my wife and I'm going to have to kick Brian's this morning. And I'm like, when he's your own kid, you're like, he's a kid. He's going. But I put so many demands on these other guys at the same age. And so I don't know, like, not to be too whatever, but like just in quiet moments, I just was like, man, some of these kids, I didn't ask them. I did what was right because of the portal and all that stuff, but there's some kids who deserve for us to go play. So, I wanted all this, I just kind of waited for it all to die down, waited for the portal to open, and then asked Troy yesterday if this was okay. I haven't told Haven. Poor Haven's over there sitting right now, probably texting people like, hey guys, guess what we're doing? I walked in with Keith. He thought I was joking. I said, no, I'm going to tell him that we're going to scrimmage next week. And I'm not doing it to have people come to the game. And I'm not doing it for anything else other than I just want to give those kids a chance to show what they can do, if that makes sense.
You envision it mostly being 2s and 3s?
Yeah, I mean, or not even all the 2s, right? I mean, it's, like basically the way we look at it, like, we have a 53-man roster like an NFL team, and we have like a second 53, and the guys trying to make that second 53, so it's probably, maybe the first 60 guys don't play, and then, just those guys that are either trying to prove that they can go from being a 2 to being a 1, or, so just anybody that we think still has meat on the bone left to prove, and if they want to play. Now, I can just tell you this. I'm out there every day, and I'm like, hey, red zone lockout, Thud, and Dane Keys, like, make it live. Emmett Johnson, I mean, they love football, so this is the team I've been waiting for. In terms of that, this is the team I've been waiting for. But yeah, I think it would mainly be, I don't want to steal Web's away. Like, we took a young man, Trent Euler, who's been playing fullback, moved to a linebacker, and he's a natural out there, right? He's got 2 practices, and he's like running around. So what am I going to do? Make him next week go out there and, wear spandex and just do whatever? I'm going to give him one more chance to prove, show what he can play. And because I know he can play. And there's lots of guys like that. So, again, the Husker games are going to be on. That'll be fun. I think we'll see the personality of a lot of the guys, but we're also just going to add in, unless Haven tells me after this, no. Put a lot of pressure on you right there, Haven. But we're going to add in some football for those guys. It's not a battle for the 105 or anything like that. It's just more like, these guys deserve a chance to put it on tape.
Another question about recruiting. You had mentioned, the 105-man roster and all the things going on. You're probably not going to sign as large of a recruiting class this year, and there's a lot of good players in the state. How do you kind of walk that tightrope between reminding players and coaches in the state that you really value kids here, but simultaneously knowing that you might not be able to bring all of them here?
I have one job: it's to win at Nebraska. Okay. Anytime a coach here has tried to do anything else but win at Nebraska, they've been asked to leave. And I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. Like, you can serve. No man can serve two masters. We have to win. Everyone cares about everything else when you're not winning. When you win, I mean, Tommy Frazier was from where? Okay, I'm saying like that. No one, you know what I'm saying? Like so, and I'd say that like I want to mine the state. I think there's good players in the state. Okay, but like if a player's a really good player and doesn't quite fit us, and he's going to go, but he's going to go somewhere else. I want him to go be happy. I care about football in the state. That's why we're open. Every practice is open to the high school coaches in the state. That's why our camps are not just select invitational camps. That's why we do youth camps. That's why we do free youth camps. That's why we go speak at clinics. That's why our coaches clinic had 500 people here just for us. We are going to pour into the state in football. But what I have found is, if you bring a player here from the state and they're not happy, the place that they love now becomes a miserable thing. So I have to be sure that they're good enough. And what's happening sometimes here is some of the other schools that aren't playing in the Big Ten, they're going to offer them as a sophomore. And everyone looks at me like, well, why haven't you offered them yet? It used to be you got offered as a senior, you know? And I like guys, if I'm not quite sure yet, don't I owe it to you to be sure before I offer you a scholarship? And now before I offer you a rev share deal? So I don't think there's anything wrong at the University of Nebraska that we carry ourselves like the top 20 teams in the program, in the country. And the top 20 teams in the country, if they say, hey, we like you a lot, but we want you to come to camp, you'll come to camp, you know, going into your senior year. So there's lots of kids. I would love to recruit them. They've committed to a Big 12 school or somewhere else like that. Come to camp. If you want to play in the Big 12 over the Big 10, oh, I got it. But make no mistake, there's a big difference. And Big 12 is going to go nuts now. I know that. And I'm going to be on X and all that stuff. But it's the reality. The Big 10 and the SEC, especially moving forward, are going to be here in terms of everybody else. So I have to worry about what's Ohio State doing, what's Michigan doing. So I love the state. I love the players. And we're gonna take a bunch. You know, so we've taken some as walk-ons. We've taken some as scholarship players. I just have to be sure that they're good enough. And I don't think asking guys to come to camp is the whole thing like, hey, you should be the first offer at Nebraska. You know, desperate teams always set the market. Let me say that one more time. And rev share and all this, desperate teams set the market. So if they know that, hey, straight up, we can't beat a Big Ten team or we can't beat Nebraska, then we better offer them a year earlier and say Nebraska doesn't care about you. We care about you. We just we got to make sure that you're going to help us beat Ohio State. That's my job, is to be really focused on, you know, serving that one master, which is college football playoff, Big Ten championships, national championships. That's all anybody wants. So I better do that. If you're not doing that, then people say why. But and I think we're taking the right players from the state, and I think football in the state's really good. So you're going to see lots of guys sign scholarships.
How are those guys that are maybe on the 2D impacted by those guys who have the long odds when they're seeing those guys? Maybe the odds aren't in their favor, but they're still out there going for it. How has that just impacted your culture as a whole, you think, and the players?
Well, I don't know if our guys have enough time right now to think about, like, you know, I mean, every kid's fighting, you know, in spring, every kid's fighting for their own life, right? Like, I'm fighting to be a starter. If I'm a starter, I'm fighting to be a draft pick. So they're kind of all, I think as you get to the end of it, it's when it starts to really hit you. You know, that's why I've been very clear. I mean, I like our team. I don't think we need to add one thing from the portal and have a good team. Like, I told our guys the answers are in this room. That doesn't mean I'm not going to go through the process. It doesn't mean I'm not going to look at what's out there. And if we lose somebody, we may have to replace them. But we have a lot of really good players and a lot of depth that I like. So I do think, though, like when I talked about Bauer today, I made that point to everybody. Like, he didn't complain. He didn't worry about what he doesn't have. Every day he compares himself to what he was yesterday and says, okay, am I better than I was yesterday? To the point where he's a straight running dude. He's a good football player. And so I told the guys out there, it wasn't planned ahead of time. I didn't tell Susan ahead of time. I said, we'll pay for your school next year. And they all tackled him. And not one of those like, hey, someone walks out with a scholarship. I just was like, this is ridiculous. This kid gets nothing, and he plays this good. Like, I'm going to give him. He's on scholarship, right? Or he's, you know, whatever the rules are moving. I don't know the rules yet, but we'll pay for his school. So, and the guys are happy. But I just think our players respect everybody in the building for their effort. There's not a guy in the building that doesn't give great effort. And so I think that whole 105 thing will hit. If you're not thinking about it, it'll hit some people at some moment. Like, hey, you know, how's this going to impact me? How's this going to impact each other? It'll be sad when it happens, you know, because, you know, if it would have been easier to phase this than it would have been to just cold cut. We're cutting people. We're cutting people, and that's really hard. I'm surprised. I mean, I'm surprised it's not. I'm just surprised it's not grandfathered in. I really am.
Is Bauer playing defense?
So I'm talking about Jacob Bauer, right? So Jacob Bauer, and plays linebacker for us. Yes.
Jacob Bauer.
Yeah, Jacob.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Rowdy's a heck of a player too. And Rowdy's playing safety, but Jacob's what I was talking about.
This is
Anything else, guys? Yeah, I had a question about, you guys really dramatically improved your turnover margin last year, especially in the giveaway category. Takeaways probably weren't as many as you want. How's that been going in camp in terms of the way Coach Butler teaches it and the way your defense has responded to takeaways specifically? That.
Yeah, I think we're breaking on the ball and intercepting balls better. You know, it's always hard. The number one source of turnovers is always the quarterback position at every level of sport. So when you can't, I see some deal. I don't know who's back there. Is that Keona's back there? Justin's back. Is this Justin Keona? So Keona, those guys get mad at you because you don't let them get near the quarterback, right? Because they would like to get the sack fumbles and all those things. I think the biggest thing is, you can do all the takeaway drills you want. Truly turnovers, fumbles, which is what, they come from, in my opinion, dominant contact and running through people and striking people. And we've had some of those. Some guys like Jeremiah Charles have gotten the ball out. I think we just need more. At the same time, I also think we're carrying the ball better. I tell our guys all the time, you don't live in the past, but you learn from the past. You go back to last year, you lost to Illinois by 1 point. And I say 1 point because it was overtime, right? You lost to Iowa by one play. Your 2 plays. No, we don't believe in getting close. We believe in the urgency of the details of carry the football right and knock the football out, right? Knock the football out. So we have got to continue. But I won't know that, Sam, honestly. You don't know that till the season. You really, because, if you're knocking a bunch of balls out, great on defense, but on offense we must be terrible. So I like the way we're practicing. I like how physical the guys are, but I like how attention to detail we've been. We're just going to continue. We're still young in some areas to grow that. But the turnover battle, it's been since 2016 that Nebraska has been plus in the turnover battle for a season. So we were horrific. We were bad this past year. You know what I'm saying? Like better, but bad still. We've got to become either good or great. And that doesn't come with anything else other than, I think, really just getting better. When you're better, you win the turnover battle.
Is this the team you've been waiting for? What do you mean?
In terms of why do we have to go? No, not everybody. I'm saying like this is the team when you have a fourth-year guy who started in the SEC. You've got Emmett Johnson, who's a starting tailback. And let's be quite honest, if they were to get injured, they have a lot to lose, right? But they love to compete, and they understand that when you play football, there's an inherent risk. And that's why, in the NFL, they have preseason games. Think about that. You have a $270 million roster. You have $50 million quarterbacks, and you still put them out there for preseason games because you have to make a decision. Do I want to be healthy or do I want to be good? And most injuries actually happen just like shuffling and a guy's knee buckles, right? So, but when you have players that like to play, I don't have guys saying I blow the whistle up there, hey, coach, can we run that back? Can we do it again? This is the first time, the offense fumbled today in a competitive period, and I wouldn't let the black offense go back out. And they, Dylan's in my ear. And I'm like, well, the only way to punish you guys is to not let you play, as opposed to make them go again. And it's completely different. But it's year 3, right? It's completely different, and it has nothing to do with me. It's the guys. They like to compete. Like that guy back there, Justin. If someone called me and said, hey, there's a problem at the house, I'm calling Justin Evans. I'm telling you. And he's moved to center now. He should be up for everything, every award. I mean, he's a tough guy, right? Smart, but he's not the outlier. There's a ton of them, and it's been really good. So when I say that, I'm just I want to be on the practice field. If you come to a practice and you hear me yelling and screaming, I kind of sit there and talk to Susan, talk to Hay. I mean, we got what we got going, and so they love to practice and they're competing at a high level. So I'm happy about them in terms of that.
Roster down, do you find yourself hearkening back to when you were an NFL coach, and do you kind of refer to the situations that you might have had to go through then to now, adjust to what it is now?
That's a great point. I think this is way harder. I mean, at the end of that's business, right? That's whatever. And those kids, if they get cut, they can get picked up by another school. Now that's why we're telling them now, so if they want to get in the portal. But I just don't understand. In August, I'm going to walk into a kid and say, hey, thank you for everything. Thanks for training 7 days a week. That's for having your body weight at this. That's for you can't be in the facility anymore. What I'm going to say, not I can hang around and no, you can't be in the facility anymore. You're going to go from being on this football team for 2 years to being a regular student. And go sit in the stands, and they'll be sitting in the stands watching a game. Man, so while the narrative out there is, hey, this kid asked for this amount of money. I don't know. I'm talking about like nationally, right? There's all these national stories. I pay attention to those, and I understand this is a business. I like to talk about also though the Jacob Bowers and those kids that are just fighting for whatever. Because I don't care if you get one thing. If you get to eat in this cafeteria every day, you should be pretty grateful, right? And so, but it's going to be really hard. And this is the last time we'll actually be able to talk about it because it's going to go into effect. And I'm not going to complain about something once it's changed. And I understand why they did it, but it's the human capital, it's the human effect that is unbelievable. That's why I didn't like coaching in the NFL. I love the players. The players looked at me like, oh God, here he comes. Like I was the guy like deciding their futures, and I don't want that. I want to be there. Like I walk off practice today, and there's Elijah Judy's, wife and son. I'll go over. I like to play with Coda. I like to be talking about guys' grades. I don't want to be, hey, we're cutting you. But so I've done it before. I've been a part of it. You become very dispassionate about the relationships with the players if you want to be really good at that. GMs and those guys, it becomes very transactional, and that's never been what the University of Nebraska is, and that's not been who I am. So, but this will be the only year we have to do it, I guess, right? After that, it'll be kind of set, and we'll adjust, but this first year will be really difficult.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.